What? No famous friends? That may not be your fault. I don't judge. But it is a neon sign flashing. Uh, what are the words on loser? Which is what I was once. How am I ever going to make a publishable memoir? Or meet hot and famous members of the opposite sex? The good news. What I did, you can do. Which is why I started Famous Friend Finder. Afraid that you might not be a good enough friend for Los Famosos? Might not be passe material? Relax. You'd make a great friend. You wouldn't photobomb their sex tape, for example, or post a hilarious 5-second GIF on your Facebook page of them doing drugs in your bathroom. You would talk them out of shoplifting flip-flops at that dollar store. They don't need those flip-flops, you would point out, and you can always lend them $1. Also, a pair of $425 Valentino Garavani, the rock stud, flip-flops may be seen in the swag bag at their next famous person event. Famous friends, they can pay off in many, many ways. Gossip that sends your memoirs flying off the shelves. Famous person swag they didn't want. Members of the opposite sex they didn't want, but are plenty good enough for you. Don't waste your breath telling all the slackers and the losers you hang out with to suck it up and become famous. Are you kidding? What do you expect, a sex tape? Do you want to see them naked? Their one realistic option would be a half-assed assassination attempt parlayed into an as-told-to book. That kind of famous friend you don't need. Which is no reason to just boot it up in Grand Theft Auto 5 and wait for lightning to strike. Which it did, I'll admit, to a priest I once knew who lucked into a friendship with Tommy Lasorda, the once famous manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And thereafter, shoehorned the man's name into every sermon. Diminishing returns set in pretty quickly on the theological implications of Tommy Lasorda. Basics you will learn at the Famous Friend Academy will have you racking up FFs with speed and confidence. Lesson 1 jumps right in with the 3 kinds of a famous friend: actual, imaginary, or dead, which could also be actual or imaginary, along with many fun famous friend finding exercises. Let me share 2. The first is based off a story from my forthcoming commercially successful memoir. Walk into a bar whose patrons are well beyond your league. Sit beside an empty stool. Pat on it and announce that you are saving it for your famous friend. Now, before we continue, or trying it yourself, stop. Do you see the problem? You can't just say, I'm saving this for my famous friend. You need a name, as I learned on my jargon. So, as I took my custom elsewhere, I sat, patted, and this time said, I'm saving this for my famous friend, Andy Warhol. Which was even totally true, except for the friend part. And since if you would have walked in, I probably would have said, Andy, hey, Andy, I saved you a seat. And maybe even added, long time no see. This was before he had died. So I would have said in our scientific taxonomy, I am saving this for my non-dead imaginary famous friend, Andy Warhol. But blue penciling pesky words is legitimate poetic license. And instead of non-dead imaginary, advanced students will learn to say and think potential, applying Aristotle's very important distinction between actuality and potentiality. Famous friends, they don't have time for these technical distinctions, but will appreciate someone who can say Aristotle and not sound pretentious, as long as you do not make a habit of it. Back to the bar. Always at first copacetic, a nearby, attractive member of the opposite sex was impressed that Andy Warhol had me for a friend. Until another nearby person said, Andy doesn't go to bars. Andy doesn't drink. Just my luck to run into someone who also had the same non-dead imaginary famous friendship with Andy Warhol, even if he wasn't making use of it at the time. Really bad luck. Because everything he had said, I now know, was totally false. But this was before the internet. I know. Famous friend finder will teach you not to draw the wrong conclusion from this story. Such as, what if you were humiliated in front of an attractive member of the opposite sex? You found a kindred soul who also had the same non-dead imaginary friendship with Andy Warhol and became an actual friend. No. Nobody needs more losers in their life. The second is a variation. You sit, pat, and say, as I now often do, you know, I miss Andy. Or the name of your favorite dead imaginary famous person. But make sure you do your homework first. Hint, thanks internet. Andy's favorite drink was Jack Daniels. Now, you may question, what is the point of a dead imaginary famous friend? Where, for example, is their swag? Think of it as part of a process. As Ludwig Wittgenstein might have said, they're like ladders that, after you've climbed it, you can discard. Wittgenstein was a famous philosopher, different from Aristotle, as you can tell from the different ways that their names are spelled. I regret that I did not have the chance to ask him why. After you've thrown the ladder, wouldn't you be stuck on the roof? Take advantage of your famous friend finder 30-day free trial today. You have nothing to lose, except losers. Someday, you might be saving a seat for Ludwig Wittgenstein. And I must say, I really do miss him.